about the same thing all the time. So I stopped saying yes to interviews because it just seems like, people ask the same things. But so I especially really appreciate that these are questions I've never answered, certainly on a video or an audio. So it's great.
How cool. So that's to the ATIS group, and I'm recording the session now, FYI.
Okay.
So Gina was just saying how some of the questions she really likes because she hasn't had to address those or hasn't had the opportunity to address those in the past with anybody, really, it sounds like. So did you want to just dive into with the first one you have there?
Sure. Ask away.
So I'm going to go from the very top of the page here. And this is compiled from all of us getting together in our group, and I wrote at the board the questions and further transcribed and embellished a little bit just to make them, because it was a little choppy and whatnot. So, but this is essentially the spirit. I believe I captured the spirit real well for each question for Gina. And so here we go. Okay. Jesus is being channeled by an awful lot of people. Are they all actually doing so? If so, why do you think he would be trying so hard to communicate through so many different people? And you can stop me at any point because a couple of these are multi-layered. Isn't this a sort of a poor way to get a clear message through to humanity? I mean, why not incarnate himself again and get the message through directly? Or is this coming, as in the second coming?
Great. So yes, Jesus is channeling through a lot of people these days. I don't know, I'm not privy to who is actually channeling him and who isn't, but I have one guideline, basic sort of guideline for understanding this that Jesus has given me, and that is that for a higher level being like Jesus to when a higher level being speaks to somebody, they must identify themselves correctly. So higher level beings will never misidentify themselves, and lower level beings will misidentify themselves, but lower level beings will never write a book. That's too hard. It's too much work. They want to just mess with you. So it's possible that someone believes they're channeling Jesus if they're just casually channeling a little here and there. But if Jesus approaches you and declares that that is who he is and wants to write a book, and the book that comes through is wise and in alignment with the truth, then you can be sure that it is Jesus, because they will not misidentify themselves, and the lower beings just aren't able to even write something like the books that I write. So that was explained to me, and that was helpful. But certainly it's possible for someone who's not a fully developed channel to be messed with by lower astral beings who tell that person that they are Jesus when they aren't really. But that will either be found out because eventually those lower level beings just can't keep up the ruse. Usually the con comes to an end by them behaving really badly. And so it eventually becomes apparent, although lower level beings can appear quite wise. They've learned how to sound like higher level beings, but they can't really keep it up for long. So I would say that the people who are channeling Jesus and writing books that are said to be by Jesus are very likely to be Jesus.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. And then there are lots of other questions in there.
Well, just the other kind of the main one was why come through so many people, do you suppose?
Well, because he can, because the more the merrier, because the more people you come through, of course, the more you can reach. These are people in different cultures or different countries or with different backgrounds and different access to different people. So I've got my little circle of people who read my books, and other people have their people that they reach, maybe more Christian people, or maybe more New Age people, or maybe more ACIM people, or, so we all have a role and we all have a place. And so it's really great. The more the merrier. So it's much more effective than if Jesus were to embody in one human being, as he did 2,000 years ago. That didn't go very well. So,
Not really.
And, in this day and age, you can reach people through channels so well. And who's going to believe someone who says that they're Jesus? But I have another piece that I got when I knew I was going to be asked this question. I asked Jesus, and he said that he actually is, aspects of him have actually embodied in several individuals who are on earth right now. Some of them know that, and some of them don't know that. So there are some people who say they are an incarnation of Jesus who actually are an aspect of Jesus. So there's like a stream of that soul comes in. When you get to very high levels, you become this multi-dimensional being that can do many things on many levels. And so it can put out an aspect of itself, incarnate an aspect of itself on earth, and have that be a portion of its energy. And apparently Jesus has done that with several individuals on earth, and some of them are aware of being that aspect of Jesus, and some are not, he said. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But it's not an easy thing saying that you even channel Jesus, much less saying you are Jesus, especially since there are many, many people in mental hospitals who claim that very thing, and they don't have much credibility. So,
right.
Yeah.
Do you have an aspect of Jesus in yourself?
No, actually not.
Just a channel.
But I do have an aspect of another multidimensional being who's working with Jesus, and who was the being that worked with me before Jesus showed up in 2012.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So Jesus doesn't need to come, because there are so many here who are teaching the truth, and he's able to work through so many people, not just channels, but intuitively through any teacher who maybe doesn't think they're channeling. But from attending satsang that a lot of those teachers out there are actually what I would call channeling. Maybe they don't know who they're channeling or what they're channeling, but to sit up and in front of an audience and to give yourself over to the truth and give a talk about the truth, most of those teachers will say they just do give themselves over and just speak, and what comes out is the truth. Well, where is that coming from?
Yeah, I do a lot of writing myself, and it's never occurred to me to ask, my muse, when it's burning fairly bright and everything, it just doesn't occur to me to go, now, where's this coming from exactly? Because I'm too involved in I don't know. It just has never occurred to me, but that's really interesting.
And you don't need to ask, you don't need to know. Some of us apparently do need to know, have our life purpose is tied to acknowledging ourselves as a channel of a particular being. But there are plenty of people who are bringing through amazing things, art, music, all sorts of things that are, you could say, channeled.
Cool. Okay, so you want to move to the next one?
Sure.
So the Bible, wow. How does Jesus view karma? How does he view the Bible? With so many people on the planet living their lives according to one interpretation of the Bible or another, how does your your teachings now regard the Bible? And should we be trying to emulate its teachings as presented in the average Sunday school across America? Should we, how should we regard that stuff?
I love this question because, as odd as it might seem, I have never really asked Jesus that. I think because I was afraid to get into the subject of the Bible myself, because, it seems like a sticky wicket.
It seems like the first thing I'd want to ask if it was me.
I
But
know.
that's why I'm not channeling, because I'm probably too obtuse or obnoxious or something.
Well, I would say that's why there are more channels, because we're interested in different things and we ask different questions, and our purpose for what we're teaching is different. But so anyhow, I did ask him, and since you're asking what his stance is, I channeled the answer. So I'm going to just read it. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Jesus said, I would discard the teachings in the Bible as I discarded the teachings of Judaism. Too much of what is in the Bible has been distorted and is misunderstood or incorrectly reported. Why put wine into old wineskins? My teachings are alive and well today, and many teachers of today, not just channels of mine, but others who understand the truth, which is universal and belongs to no religion. This is a time for truth with a capital T. There is no time to sort through the old for the bits of truth, when so much truth is being spoken today by emissaries of the truth, who have come to earth specifically to share that truth. You are blessed to have so many walking on earth who have realized the truth and live it and speak it as I did. I was but one of so many over the centuries who have realized this truth. Today, more individuals than ever before have realized it and will realize it, because that is what is needed now. Any idea or belief that is not of love, that separates one person from another, is not part of my teachings, not part of the truth. If you take one thing away from my previous teachings, let it be do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I would also add the importance of forgiveness. Forgive yourself and others. These two things are what I came to teach. These two simple teachings alone will change the world. As for karma, leave that up to God. It is a natural law of life that as you sow, you will reap. But it is not your business to impose this or make assumptions about this for another human being. Karma is the great teacher, and it is designed perfectly to teach, not punish.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's coming from a high source right there. Wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
There's never judgment. There's always love and support, but there's also a directness about how he speaks and how the other higher level beings speak. They have a very direct, kind of no nonsense way of just cutting to the truth. And but there's a gentleness and a kindness and acceptance and support and non-judgmentalness about everything that they say. And that's how you can tell them from other human beings or other lower level astral beings. So it's in having this relationship with Jesus and with the other beings that I've had a channeling relationship with, they have shown me what the perfect teacher is. So it's very hard for human beings to live up to the model that I have had internally in my internal experience of this teacher, of Jesus and others. There's such a perfection and sweetness and consistency. They don't have an ego, So they are the perfect teacher. So if you ever want to know what that looks like, it looks like that. And so I must say, it's hard for me to, it's very hard to find that in a human teacher. And nobody really is that perfect in a human body because everyone does have an ego. There are just some limitations. So we really can't expect human beings who are spiritual teachers to be perfect in that same way. And yet it is still a model for us to emulate.
Yeah. Well, that's well said. And I have a million things I could be putting in and asking, but you're, no, I'm just letting you have the floor here totally. I'm loving this, and you're covering it all.